Hi,
Hey, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing well.
Just kidding.
I see people are joining the room. We'll give maybe another 2 minutes for people to join.
No problem at all. No problem at all. How's your day going?
It's going well. Oh, can you change your name, Travis? Your name is my name. So that means that you guys want to be on my link. And I'll pull up my screen here. Kenyatta is joining.
Cool. Got that changed. How's the weather in New Orleans?
Well, right now it is sunny, but it's actually supposed to start raining pretty badly. It's like we're under a tropical storm depression warning right now.
I'll be watching our videos, y'all. Ooh, I couldn't do
I always say you can deal with something, right? It's always something, regardless of where you live.
it. You're right about that.
Yes.
Good evening, good people.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Just want to take a moment to say hello.
Yes, you're able to join. I just got your message, but you're able to join.
Mm-hmm.
We're just gonna give 2 more minutes for others to join, and then we're gonna get started.
Sure thing.
Thank you all again for joining us tonight. This event is hosted by SJB Group and SGI and supported by DOTD. So Louisiana Department of Transportation is DBE Services. Get started here in 1 minute. So Dr. Davis, this is a very much so open conversation. Everyone that's in attendance is a minority-owned business, small business, and they're looking to secure contracts. So I know you have a lot to share on that, and we can't wait to dive in.
Yes, it's definitely one of my favorite topics. And I'm glad to see all the minority-owned businesses online. It's also a key word that I always talk about minority. We do have to pay attention to that word.
Yeah,
That's, it's a big meaning to it when we're talking government.
yeah,
But,
it does. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you again, everyone who has joined us tonight. We have Dr. Travis Davis with us, who is a biz dev and GovCon expert. And I have been following Travis for some time now. And I knew that I wanted to have him on to talk about government contracting. Many of you who may or may not be familiar with a platform called Clubhouse, he's always on there giving all these valuable gems, trying to get small businesses into government contracting and kind of just break the foundation of those who have never secured a government contract to those who can continue to expand upon particularly maybe where you are today. I'll read your background, but would love for you to let me know what we missed. So Dr. Travis Davis, a successful entrepreneur who believes in giving back to the community by creating economic sustainability. He gives his time, energy to creating a recession-proof lifestyle with an emphasis on underrepresented communities. Dr. Davis, a promising scholar athlete, career ended while attending Virginia State University. However, he transformed from a scholar athlete to strengthen his portfolio in the fast-growing technology field. Dr. Davis realized the importance of having a financial plan and not relying on other people for your success. His expertise in cybersecurity has led to securing multiple domestic and foreign government contracts. After securing multiple million-dollar government contracts, Dr. Davis saw this as the perfect system for any business owner to add to their financial plan. He knew this information was vital to share with more business owners, especially with the lack of education on the subject matter. Since learning about government contracts and winning his first one, Dr. Davis is determined to educate business owners on the power of leveraging government contracts to secure revenue. Welcome. We're excited to have you here tonight. What did I miss? What did I miss from this wonderful bio that definitely captures the essence of what your work has led to and what you're doing in government contracting. But what did I miss? And particularly, how do you get started in government contracting?
I guess the part that was missed is that, I'm really just a regular person who just had enough. And when I say enough, like the calculations of money and working just wasn't adding up to me. And the path that they had me on, I like my time. I want my time freedom. And when I was calculating staying at work, I only had a certain amount of time they would let me off per year. And they told me I could retire at 62 and some change, and that couldn't work with me. So I decided to step outside of the box and generate revenue for myself. And once I started doing that, my first contract, as we stated, I actually had the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and we had 4 people at the time. And I know a lot of people may remember the system broke, and we were actually doing a triage help desk. And they went from 4 people, and Obama called and said 182 people. And I was the program manager at that time, working for a company. And it dawned on me after I did the 1099, I studied 1099, and I just kept thinking, like, I'm the smart person on this contract. Like, I'm the one running this entire project. And one thing about government contracts is all public information. So I can see exactly what was being charged for stuff after I went and researched it. I decided to take a jump out there because, if you're going to jump to 182 people, you do need me. So I decided to bill myself under my own company back to the employer that I was working for. And they could only make $1 per hour off of me. And once that happened, I also asked them for 23 employees. They ended up giving me 32. And I was working in there. And again, that part got tiring, and it dawned on me as I looked at the Fortune 500, none of the owners are physically in there doing work, but they make more money than all of the employees. And that's when I decided to remove myself from the desk and start becoming a Fortune 500 owner and hiring people to do the work.
Mm-hmm. And so you think about that from where you are now, if you have to look back or take a step back, in your entree into government contracting, right? So thinking about what is the first thing you tell small businesses who are interested in government contracting, right? So you were definitely at the desk, and then you're like, okay, let me get from behind the desk and actually be a part, get in the game in many ways. What is the first thing that you tell small businesses about doing business with the government, and where do they start?
Absolutely. The first thing is to have the mindset to understand that you can do this. Because it is large numbers, sometimes it kind of scares people away, as well as paperwork scares people away. But you have to believe that you can do this process. And whatever you lack, because we're dealing with the government, we can go get. If you can keep this motto, you can win contracts. And the very first step before anything is we got to get you registered in SAM. So if we can get you registered in SAM, you're technically capable of winning contracts immediately.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need the certifications. You don't need all of this other stuff that scares you. You just need to get in that system. We get in this system, we can start to maneuver around.
Now, I mentioned earlier, I used the term minority small businesses, and you made a comment like, oh, that could mean that meaning, right? It's something government contracting, but we'd love for you to expound a little bit more about that. And what specifically do you see opportunities from your side or your lens for small businesses, but particularly for minority-owned small businesses?
Absolutely. So when I teach my students, again, government is business. So we have to not have emotions behind what goes on in the real world when it comes to the contracting world. So when we use the word minority, you have to understand what it means to government. And the truthful answer of minority is anybody who's not a white male. So I say this because you have to understand who you're going up against. You are competing with white female-owned companies who do have the support of white males. And you just have to understand that this is what happens when they say that they're giving things to minorities. That is not just us, it's everybody. Now, with that said, though, by them giving it to minorities, we have access to all of this stuff. And we're allowed to partner with each other. Even, the large prime companies that are out there, your Lockheed Martins, Booz Allen, Apple, Microsoft, the Fortune 500 period, they have to partner with minority small businesses. And even when they're winning billion-dollar contracts, like 23% of that needs to come back to us. And we need to show up. That's the only problem. Yes, they have not been giving contracts to Black-owned companies, but the Black-owned companies have to start to show up so we can force them to do what they're supposed to do. And honestly, I've been trying to fight with the SBA to remove us from the meaning of minority, to give us our own term, like they do Alaskan and Natives and Native Americans, because now we're in our own set aside. As of right now, we are tied up in the word minority, and I personally don't like that.
Mm-hmm. And so when we think about something that we wanted to talk about tonight is the American Rescue Plan. I know people have been seeing this probably in their own feeds and may not know what exactly it is. So the American Rescue Plan is a $1.2 trillion infrastructure project focused around a couple different things: infrastructure, broadband, health, families plan, which is earned income and paid leave, which is really important, and women in the workforce. Would love what you think about the American Rescue Plan, and what does the American Rescue Plan really mean?
Absolutely. So the American Rescue Plan, it's a great plan that's coming out. Again, everybody will have their views on it, but I'm thinking business at all times. And when I see these numbers, I mean, we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars that is getting poured into communities and local cities and your states. You have an opportunity as a business owner to go after these contracts, because they're going to be coming out as contracts. Now, what I like to remind people, yes, this is the president's funding, but if you read in there, he'll be giving the funding to states. So a lot of people don't understand there's 3 levels of government: federal, state, local. So when the federal government, kind of like Big Daddy, gives the money out to the children are involved in moving that money around. It's not in the federal hands anymore. So as I was reading through this information, they're giving it to a lot of the nonprofits in the local states. There's also a nonprofit, the Minority Business Development Agency. Everybody should look into being a part of the Minority Business Development Agency.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, since you mentioned that?
Yeah, so they're a nonprofit. They have centers. I forget where all the centers are at, but if you Google my MBDA, or Minority Business Development Agency, you can actually look at the top. They'll have their centers where you can go and check for your local center that's near you. But again, they are a nonprofit organization that they're committed to helping minority businesses develop. And inside of the American Rescue Plan, I believe they are getting $500 million. Don't quote me on that number right now. At the local organizations for very small businesses. Again, these are keywords that you have to pay attention to. So very small businesses to the government is any business that's under 10 employees, which a lot of those, that's us. We have 1 or 2 employees. Yourself, you should be on your own payroll if you don't have anybody else. So you can fit that 1 employee status. But yes, that nonprofit organization, they have 2 other nonprofit organizations that they're going to be giving a lot of money to. They also have a credit. Now, this is a big one that they're going to be doing. It's the State Small Business Credit Initiative. It's going to be $10 billion put towards this. And this is where you have to learn how to manage money. Money's a tool, okay? So if you can get this tool that they're giving to you at 2% or 1%, and you don't have to pay it back for a year. Don't quote me on the terms because I haven't seen the terms of payback. But if you don't have to pay $1 million back for a year and you can make that $1 million turn 28%, 32%, I mean, you've made yourself enough money to pay this back. And then you have enough to really get moving. So all of this is happening in this American Rescue Plan outside of taxes, like for W-2 employees. There's a lot in there for them. But I'm looking at the business. Even as you stated, for COVID relief, I put that one up here because I could. It's $160 billion going towards COVID relief. And you can't think about COVID. You have to think about the products. Last year, we did $200 million in gloves. I mean, they are popping these gloves like Skittles. I don't know if people understand, like every time they do something, they got to throw them off and throw them in the trash. And again, us as citizens, we have to resell those gloves. Like Cranberry, the manufacturer of it, cannot sell the gloves directly to the government. They've got to go through a citizen who's going to mark the price up, and we're going to resell it right back to the government. And these things are happening if you would read the numbers and not have the emotional connection there, but kind of think business-wise, from gowns to gloves to testing kits. Yes, you can resell these testing kits. It's so much that's involved in it when you really break down, look at the numbers, and not think about what your hands can do, but think about what you can put together. And that's why I always say, whatever you lack, we can go get.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, we've been throwing around numbers, 1.2 trillion, 300 million, 600 million, $500 million going here and there. Where would you suggest small businesses start to get prepared to actually compete for these opportunities, right? So we know that I've talked to a few cities and states, and they're like, yeah, we're getting this money, but they haven't really structured out a plan strictly. Like, they don't know who's getting it. They haven't sent out business. So none of this has, it started, and there's people probably in the background trying to have conversations. How can small businesses begin to position themselves right now to make themselves competitive and to angle themselves? Like what you said, you may not do testing kits, but you could actually buy the testing kits at this price and then resell it to the government at this price, and boom, you're in business, right? Mm-hmm. And so how do you prepare yourself? And if you're a small business, where do you start?
Yes, that is an excellent question. So it's really going to start with networking, because as you stated, it's like if you put $10 million in a graduate's hand, they don't know what to do with $10 million. When I won my first contract, I didn't know what to do with that money. I lost quite a bit of it. So I say that because that's essentially what they're doing in these states. They're going to dump money in someone's hand. We have to remember that when we talk government, we think of it as like this big organization, but when you break it down and really look at it, it's a person that went to school, maybe or maybe not, and they weren't educated on cybersecurity. They weren't educated on logistics. They don't know nothing about COVID-19, but they have $1 billion in their hand, and they need to resolve all these problems. So to get started is you need to meet them where they're at. Every local, well, let me not say every, majority counties should have something called the EDC, economic development. Look for your local economic development. Again, they're going to understand what the city's trying to do, what the county's trying to do. So you want to start to network with these people, because it's kind of like a focus group. They may get money one day and call up like, hey, can you tell us your idea of what you think we should do? And that white paper is your idea. You hand it to them, and then next thing you know, they like, we like it. We're going to go ahead and go with you. So I would definitely start with the local economic development. And then the next set of people that I'm going to start with are your local elected officials. People don't understand the power of local elected officials, but those dinners and their community service events, you need to show up there. And you need to be there because, again, when you look at local elected officials, I always say they do want to go to the next level. So in order to get to the next level, they need to bring money into the community. The only way to bring money into the community is profitable businesses.
Mhm.
When you have a profitable business, you're usually hiring workers. Workers get charged taxes. The county makes money, the elected official looks good. If you are a good business willing to make money with them, they're going to promote you because you're going to be donating to campaigns and helping them out, and you're going to boost them up as they boost you up. So that's my number one thing. I always say you don't need to write proposals. Like all of the hard stuff that they try to say, you networking and meeting the right person could land you $2-3 million.
You know, you mentioned something that I don't think we've ever directly said as a tactic, showing up to politicians' community events that they have all the time. And because getting people out of bed on a Saturday to show up to go work in a community, it's not going to be a lot of other business people like that, like you doing that. And so that's such a smart tactic when I think about meeting people and networking people and getting in front of your mayors, your state reps, your state senators. That's so even your Congress people have events back home, right? And those are probably the best opportunity when they're not guarded, right? You had a private black tie affair, much harder to get in front of them. In a community event, when they're patting kids on the heads, it's so much easier to have these conversations.
Yep. Way easier, 10 times easier. And they're willing to talk to you.
Yes, 100%. And I think about and for those in Louisiana, our economic development office is LED, Louisiana Economic Development Office, and they actually have a small business services department in which there is a person that you can actually talk to about this, right? And then we think about like local officials, what you suggest, like we had someone on recently from SBA. Do you think that's a route to talk to people, the right people?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually was just teaching one of my students the other day, and he listened to me and it worked to perfection. Because we have to understand that the SBA and on the federal side, they have something called the OSDBU under every agency, but the SBA as a whole is actually there for us. They're not for the government. Yes, they get paid by the government, but they're paid by the government to fight for small businesses. So one of my students, a contract officer wasn't answering. And again, the whole purpose of networking and building relationships is so when problems like this come across and you send an email that you haven't asked, not every day you're asking them something, but this day you have an ask and you send the email, they will answer it. So what I told him is the SBA, they're the voice that I can't be. I would love to be the voice, but they're on the inside. Yeah. And when you put the SBA on something, whether they're CC'd on an email or they're part of a phone call, the person on the other end is scared. Because again, the SBA fights for us. They will sue the government for us. So you really have to make sure that, the SBA is part of your Rolodex. I check up with my local SBA every 3 weeks just to say hi, because again, nobody can be a voice like the SBA can. And that plays a part too with your local officials, because again, these two people can pick up the phone and be a voice that we just can't be because we're not on the inside.
Mm-hmm. And I would love, Kenyatta, are you still there?
Yes, ma'am.
I would love for you also to talk about, when I think about infrastructure and how it's coming down from the state, and then how the state is going to essentially try to figure out how to disperse that money. When we think about infrastructure and DOTD, right, and how what they'll receive and what they'll have to do for some of these projects, I think about SJB and how like the DBE requirements and the DBE minimums and maximums that they're trying to achieve will also come into play. So for those listening, we'd love for you to share a little bit about the services that you all are providing through DOTD and the work that they're doing specifically to try to have more DBEs at the table?
Well, it's obviously having opportunities like this to have, Dr. Davis come on and just speak about the topics that he's talking about. If you all were able to see right now, I have a page and a half of notes, and we only been on it for what, maybe 30 minutes. I mean, he's giving some knowledge. So opportunities like this, but also just with the programs like Savitra and I have already been talking. There's a big I-10, I-12 project coming up. It's going to be about $70 million. And we've already began partnering with the prime contractors who've been awarded that to get them on here so y'all can have this opportunity to speak to them in a informal type setting like this so you can be proactive in your business development. Because if you wait until the projects are bid and advertised, you're too late. These things are forecast within a year in advance. We're able to assist in those things. Like Savitra was just saying, we host webinars like this, but we also help with the marketing. We help with estimating and bidding. We help with the business development by way of networking opportunities. We work as liaisons to help you get in contact with these contractors who are chasing these large projects. And that's just to name a few, because that's obviously, one of the main talking points this evening, but it's free. It doesn't cost anything. One thing that I loved about what Dr. Davis just said is SBA is going to fight for you. And the way that they do that is by also collaborating with individuals like ourselves. It's all about putting yourself in the right position. We have a large ecosystem of resource agencies, SBA, with Ms. Joanne Lawrence and her team. We also got Ms. Ada Womack at LSBDC Center at Southern University. Now one is at Grambling. We do a lot of stuff with LED. We also do a lot of stuff with PTAC. And now that Daryl Johnson is over at BRAC, we're going to be able to do a lot of collaboration with them. So the platform is set. We have an unbelievable team with myself and a partner like Ms. Savitra that allows us to be able to go out there and speak for you all to put you in a position to take advantage of these large things. And I love I was just like you, Savitra. We've had a number of these webinars, but that point about attending the politicians' events, that's the first time we've had someone really pinpoint that. And that's huge because now you're in their environment. And when they see that they have you in their environment in large numbers, it makes them feel more, feel like standing on the table for you even more. You know what I mean? Because they see that you're committed to having an impact on the economic development because you're not just sitting back waiting for it to come to you. You've been proactive to have an impact on what their agenda is. So it goes a long way, man. So
and it's the idea of, at the end of the day, people support who support them too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's like basic type of connectivity, right? Like, you've been supporting me for all these events, come sit down with me so I can see how I can support you. And we've had people on our webinars. We're doing this mayor series, and someone would ask, well, who is the right person I need to connect to, right? How do I get in touch with this person and this person? And so that's why I thought, like, oh, wow, that's kind of an aha moment, but something that should probably be obvious is show up to all these events that they're hosting, that they're promoting all the time. And so I would kind of like to segue back to, so Kingata, everyone on the call, definitely from like a local perspective, state what we're doing DOTD, how we're in partnership with our local SBA and Ms. Jo, Ms. Ada over at Southern University. But anyone who's joining these webinars, we take it from local to state to federal. And I know Dr. Davis definitely has been so successful in the federal space in securing opportunities. And sometimes people end up getting a federal contract before they get a local contract and kind of go backwards, right? They go the other way. I would love to get your opinion on what President Biden said on June 1st in Tulsa. He announced a major government initiative to award up to 50% of contracts to minority-owned businesses, quote, a goal of increasing the share of federal contracts awarded to small disadvantaged businesses by 50% over the next 5 years. It's currently around 10% of federal contracts go to small disadvantaged business annually, totaling around $50 billion. That's a pretty big commitment, going from around 10% to 50%. So would love your thoughts around that. And how do we get there? I mean, we have to, if for us to go to 50%, you definitely need to have the businesses prepared and able to have the ability to do it, right? But even holding people accountable to those type of numbers, what are your thoughts on that big promise to minority businesses?
Yeah, I honestly don't see them hitting those numbers.
It's high.
Yeah, it's extremely too high. And honestly, I don't think small businesses could take on that role. And when I say that, if you look at these large prime spending that they're spending on these large primes, I mean, they're spending billions of dollars. Like we're not talking about a couple $1,000,000. And I don't know if a small business has the infrastructure in place as well as the resources to handle $1 billion opportunities. Now, can we get there? Absolutely. Because again, I always go to the term, whatever you lack, we can go get. So just because the federal government gives you the opportunity that with a stroke of a pen on a piece of paper, I mean, all three of us on this line right here, we could do a joint venture and formulate one company. And now we do have all the resources to be as impactful as the $1 billion company. But that's the hardest part. I'm not going to lie, I've been trying to work on it for the past 5 years myself. How do we get us to come together? We don't need everybody to be a chief. We need one or two chiefs to lead the whole army, and all we have to do is keep partnering, keep doing joint ventures, and stop going after the $500,000 contracts, $1 million contracts, and let's come together and go after these $500 million opportunities, $1 billion opportunities, and sub them out to each other. And I think we can make that change, but there is going to need to be a big charge that's going to force the people at the top who are saying these crazy numbers to abide by what they're saying. I don't think they can do it, but I'm sure enough going to try my hardest.
We're going to be knocking on the door, so. Yes.
It's there.
Yes.
It's
Yes, absolutely. And so, as we always do, we always send out this recording along with links to everything we talked about. So the American Job Plan is a 30-page document that the White House released. And so we'll be sharing that link as well. I would definitely tell you all to just read through it so you have a complete understanding of some of the things that Dr. Davis talked about on this webinar. But I want to get to some of the questions. So I am going to stop sharing and see about answering some of you all's questions. And if you have any questions, please do drop them in the chat. And people have been doing a great job of actually, I see somebody sent me a private message. I guess they didn't want anybody to know their question, but we'll answer those too. Prime contractor, I would like to be able to get in touch with the prime contractor for this project if possible. So I think he's talking to you, Kenyatta. We are having a Meet the Primes webinar.
Yeah, that's what, obviously, again, y'all, Savitra does a great job with these webinars, getting speakers like Dr. Davis on here, but we're going to be in the process in the future webinars, having the prime contractors come on with that project. So you'll get a chance to hear them speak about what their plan is for to start partnering with a lot of the firms prior to the advertisement coming out for the specific, because it's going to be multiple phases. But I'll also be able to get you in contact with them. It's a joint venture between Kiewit and also Bow Brothers. I have point of contacts at both. Again, that's where that liaison's coming at. We do a lot of bootstrapping for you all to develop the relationships to get you in front of them. And at that point, you have to sell yourself. Now, we give you all of the tools you need from a marketing standpoint. We do business cards, capability statements, marketing trifolds, and all of that. So we're going to just be looking forward to our webinars, but behind the scenes, we'll also be able to do some one-on-one things as well.
And Vernon, I read your question and in your thoughts. I think you're doing all the right things as far as all your certifications and getting your SAM and your next codes in place. His question is, how can he gets someone to mentor him. So how do you find a person that kind of teaches you the way, Dr. Davis? Because some of this is like, yeah, you can definitely figure it out, but I've had a couple of mentors along the way, and it definitely has tremendously helped me go faster. And there's so many landmines that you could step on just by not knowing what you don't know. And so where I know that you do some coaching and teaching, where do people seek mentorship for on government contracting in general?
Yeah, that is honestly a great question, and I'll tell you, I lost about $250,000 before I found some help. So I understand what you're saying, because honestly, a lot of your government contractors, they're making so much money they don't even bother to come back and help the people. So it's hard to find that person to help you, as well as you do have some scammers on this side. So all of this stuff plays a factor. So it is important to find a mentor. One thing that I ended up doing to find my perfect mentor is the research. And it's even goes into the method of how I teach government contracting. I'm a firm believer we don't start from scratch. I don't start anything from scratch, so we're not going to start this from scratch. Instead, we're going to use the data to find the winners. Right? I'm from the cheating method. I've been cheating since I was in grade school. I haven't stopped yet. So when I find the winners, they've already shown me how to do the capability statement. I can see the proposals that they've written if I order a FOIA. I can check out their website. So that gives me all of the information. If I just compile about 20 to 25 of these businesses who are winning 50, $100+ million, I look like them now. Now it's time to make yourself look like the winners, and then go knock on the doors of the winners and ask for help. Like, listen, I am a minority business and it is your job to work with me, but it's even easier for you to work with me when I look like you.
Right.
And that's how you could find your best mentor. But it's a process, you know. Just don't give up, you know, and don't be afraid to do anything wrong. I always say, if you didn't sign a contract, well, you have nothing to lose. So don't be afraid to speak up, do things wrong, because you'll only get better each step you take. And one contract can save your life, change your life forever.
Yes, I often talk about a contract that I secured with Aetna Better Health through a Medicaid program, right? That they just got contracted to do for the state of Louisiana, and that one contract changed the whole trajectory of my company like overnight, right? And that happens to so many small businesses over and over and over who had just been at it, just chipping at it, working at it, networking, putting in the work, you know, over and over and consistently, right? And then they had that one breakthrough. And once you start winning, then people identify you as a winner. They give you more contracts because they're like, oh, okay, you can do it, right? You can do it. So we come back to you, or we continue to build those relationships. Question from Eric: can you share any tips on the procurement phase for RFPs?
Yeah, so, you know, the biggest part again is always going to boil down to research, because I'm the type of person, honestly, I do not like writing proposals. I've never taken on a prime contract because of my lifestyle. I like to move around, and as a prime, you got to take responsibility of everything. But instead, by me going through my processes, I look for winners, and I'm looking for winners of what I know about. And you can look, I promise you, the government's too big that, you know, whatever I'm doing over at CMS, it's impossible for me to look over at Department of Energy. They need the same services or the same product, but I'm not big enough to go look over there. So my approach is to go help a winner out. Right? If I see a winner is over in CMS and they're doing a hell of a job, well, I'm going to go over to Department of Energy and become their resource over there. Then I'm going to approach them at their table and say, hey, I got some stuff for you. Like, but I need you to partner with me. And the only way that you can get this information that I got is to partner with me. And I'm partnering with white male companies because they need me. And now all of a sudden, they have all the resources I need. I'm only bringing them opportunities for minority owned businesses to win. So they cannot get that contract without me. And they would love to take 49% of a contract that they didn't have to do any research for or any of the networking and relationship building. Hell, I don't know too many people who don't want 49% of $50 million or something like that. So that is my strategic approach, even as you guys are stating about infrastructure. I'm trying to build a city in Atlanta and Baltimore right now as we speak. And I've never built a city before in my life. I know nothing about construction. I don't even know about a bulldozer or none of that stuff, but I don't need to, because I understand that there's people out here who know this stuff. And all I got to do is bring them on my team. I bring them on my team. We write the proposal together. All of a sudden, I can build a community. It's this simple, but you have to think outside of the box. And if you are going to get into that lane of pivoting, just find who got the lowest prices. You find somebody with the lowest prices for cement, all of a sudden you can go drop cement. You could be a doctor tonight. Like you could go do surgery on people, not you physically, but your company can if you go hire some doctors. So you really have to get your mind wrapped around it. You can do whatever you want. It's all about having a strategic approach to this.
Yeah, I love the idea of strategy because a lot of us don't like writing proposals. I don't either. But it's like what you bring to the table. And last year we had someone on by the name of Zamora Olin, who I should connect you with because she's amazing in government contracting. And she came from government contracting world. And that's all she does is write proposals. And I was like, oh, you write proposals. I got the network. So you write proposals, I had the contacts, and we started partnering and going at the opportunities because I too wasn't the person that's going to sit down and write proposals. There's so much you have to know about writing proposals so that you don't essentially X yourself out by default because you forgot a comma somewhere on the pricing tab.
Right.
So I do feel that like partnerships and letting people do what they're strong with is super important when you're going after these larger contracts and these larger contract opportunities. Obviously for the smaller ones, RFPs aren't as long and like tedious, but definitely for the multi-million-dollar contracts because as Dr. Davis said, we're thinking about the overall contract that a prime can have. And to be able to get a couple $1 million and you don't have to write the proposal, you're just included in the proposal is exactly, Kiara will tell you, outside the contract that we wrote and did with Aetna is how I have expanded like through government contracting, right? So that subcontract, because those subcontracts at scale can be tremendous. So the next question is, can you speak a little bit more about SAMs and about the application process to get your number? So like the things that you need to do to actually be able to do business with the government. How hard is it and what's the process like?
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, the biggest thing is to make sure that you have a business open with an EIN number. Once you have that, now I don't like to get a professional to tell you whether LLC, S Corp, and you really need to know your plan for the next 5 to 10 years to understand whether it should be a S Corp, LLC, or whatever that is. But once you get that, you get your EIN number, just go to sam.gov. There'll be a section right there that says get started, and it's literally just clicking and following through. During that process, they're going to issue a DUNS number, a DUNS. That's going to be like your number. You want to make sure that you keep that number and save it. Although they are getting DUNS lost the contract, so I believe at the end of 2022, DUNS number is going away. And they'll be over to Cage Code, which you will also get during your process of registering. So you're going to get those two numbers, DUNS and Cage Code. Once you get that, you're in the system. The next biggest code is your NAICS number. And again, if you don't know what your NAICS number is, and this is a number for your services or products that you're going to sell, it says that you can do this. So don't load your profile up with a bunch of numbers because you can, right? I don't like to tell people what they can't do, but you can load your profile up with all these numbers, but nobody's going to give you work because you just started and it's impossible that you can do everything. Mm-hmm. But instead, you put your niche number on there And the easiest way for me to find it, again, is to find the contracts that have already been awarded. Make sure the wording is right. That's your NAICS code. Once you have your NAICS codes, I would say no more than 4 or 5, then you're ready to go. I mean, you're ready to go after that. Everything from that point on is about being strategic. That's when the certifications come into play. That's when using proper NAICS numbers can come into play. But the biggest part is getting in that system to get strategic after that. Even again, on these projects, if you find out that prime contractors, like majority white males, keep winning these contracts, you can go take contracts. This is what a lot of people don't understand, that you can take stuff by just reading the rules and regulations. There's a rule called FAR of 2. If you come with 2 women-owned companies, and this is for any certification, but let's say 2 women-owned companies approach the table and they've been giving these contracts to white male-owned companies for the last 15 years. If 2 women-owned companies approach the table and prove on their proposal that they could do that opportunity, the government must take that opportunity from that white male and give it to one of those 2 women-owned companies. If they don't, we're going to sue them, and we're going to sue them for a whole lot of money. And this happens all the time.
That's I don't know if I knew that to that extent, and you kind of broke that down for us. So thank you, very insightful. Jasmine has a question here. As a aspiring contractor, what steps do you recommend in starting a contracting business?
Your research first, again, FPDS or USAspending.gov, FPDS.gov or USAspending.gov is where you can research and find the opportunities that have already been awarded for what it is that you want to do, whether that's a product or a service. So remember, you can resell all the products, from the laptops, the cameras, to whatever. The government needs to buy this stuff. So you can resell those. So that's where I'm going to start to see it. Can I find the money, right? Once you can find the money, I mean, start the business and don't worry about whatever factors that pop up that may scare you away from pursuing the opportunity. And when I say that, experience may pop up. You need 4 years of experience. But again, people's mind scares them away from this. You have 4 years of experience, right? Like you've been working for somebody for 10 years, right? You have to just reword, understand that by you being an employee for your own business, that's experience to your business. Your resume is experience for your business because you work there. So anytime you hire people, you get to take their experience as your business. And if it says that they want physical experience, like actual opportunities, because they may ask you for previous contracts, partner with somebody like me. Call me up, call somebody up that already has the experience. We probably don't even care about the contract. I think I have 3 contracts right now that I'm a pass-through. I don't care about the contract. They pay me $30,000 a year to be a pass-through. These are things that you can do, but again, you have to think outside of this box, because this stuff isn't taught to you in school on the capabilities of what you can do, not knowing anything about what you're doing.
And someone said, can you repeat those websites that you mentioned to the individual who asked about getting into contracting?
Yeah, it's fpds.gov, Frank Paul David Sam.gov. Always make sure you stay on .gov websites. In USA Spending, USAspending.gov.
.gov websites. That means so you don't end up getting taken by someone, because it's so much out there. You'll Google something and you'll click on a link, and next thing you know, you're paying Joe and basically fueling how he's making money for his company. And he's giving something that you should have clicked on a free link for. Absolutely.
These sites should be free. Do not, and that's again why I stress .gov, do not pay people to get on these sites. But if you slip up, you can go down Gilligan's Island and go around the wrong place.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Davis, we only have about 9 minutes here. Thank you all for your questions. If you have any last minute questions, please drop them. But there's 3 departing things that you would leave for those who attended this webinar, to get them going down this federal government contracting and just get them in the mindset, like you said, that they can do it. What would be those 3 things you want to leave people with?
I would always say, get around people, go to meetings and events of people who are outside of your current environment. You have to understand that there's a different life out here. And the only way that you could get that is to get around people who are experiencing that lifestyle so you can start to believe in yourself. Yes, I'm saying that it's easy and I've done it, but at the end of the day, your mind has to tell you that you can do it. And the only way that happens is getting that support around you. So when you do get that scary situation or something, you don't fold and bend and go back to comfortable. So that's my number 1 thing. The number 2 thing is to research. Do your homework. Don't just go to people asking for stuff all the time without doing your homework first. Too many people like do me a favor, but they don't even know what the favor is. Like, what do you want from people before you ask people for stuff? You don't just ask for blanket statements. If you are direct with people when you ask them for favors, they will answer you. But again, you won't know what to ask from people if you never do your homework and your research. And the third thing is to believe in yourself, right? You can do this. I did it. I'm pretty sure there's tons of other stories of regular people who they just decided to jump in this one day and they did it. You can watch the movie War Dogs. It's real, and if you can get in that mindset to understand, like, okay, I'm not going to let any distractions come into place, but I want to access this $9 trillion that comes out every year. Every year it recycles. And once you can get in this house, you're in there. And if you're going to work for 365 days for somebody else to get paid $28, $35 an hour, whatever that number is, if you tell me your job title, I'll tell you exactly how much money you're going to make. And I'll tell you how much money you're going to make for the next 4 years. If you're going to get stuck in that mindset, then we can't get to where we want to be. But if you could understand, it may take you 2 years to get your first contract. But if you did 365 days for $70,000 a year, $120,000 a year, then you should be able to do 365 days for $10 million. 2 years, I don't care for $10 million, because again, one contract could completely change your life for yourself and your family.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Davis, for joining us tonight. Just based on the comments and the feedback, we have had individuals who've gotten a lot from this conversation. Where can people reach you at?
Absolutely. You can go to officialtravisdavis.com. You'll see my digital business card there. It has all of my information as far as contacting me. I do have a site that actually has a resource guide of all of the links that I've been talking about. It's ilikemymoneypure.com. It's ilikemymoneypure.com. And the reason I say pure is because money's printed from the Treasury Department and I want it from right there. I want my money pure. Don't cut my money. I don't want it from other people. Like, give me my money from the federal government and let me dish it out to the people and start cutting it up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Kenyatta, can you kind of close us out with how they can find us and the services that we provide through DOTD? And yeah, we'll leave it at that and follow up with you all with this presentation. We will be sending out the presentation as well as the video by tomorrow. So look forward to it and definitely tune in for our upcoming webinars. Kenyatta?
So again, man, great job again, Ms. Savitra. I appreciate you, Dr. Davis, for making time to come on here and drop these golden nuggets. Obviously, you can go to our website. All attendees, like Savitra says, she's going to be sending it out to all the attendees, but it also will be posted on our website that I've put in the chat. But it's www.louisianadbe.com. You can go there, subscribe, and you'll get notifications every time we populate it with great information, resources, project advertisements, and whatnot. But one of the biggest things I would want to tell you all from tonight, you know, when you believe in yourself, you're willing to do the necessary bootstrapping that it's going to take to win. And, you know, these two components, you know, those three components that, you know, Dr. Davis mentioned, networking, research, and believing in yourself, those three work hand in hand, and we're going to provide the platforms for you all to be able to do all three. Just lean on us. You have us. As he's talking about all the trillions of dollars is out there, some of those trillions of dollars are going to the resources that we can provide to y'all. That's why it's free. Yep. And again, lean on us to make sure we can, you know, strengthen those efforts by getting in front of the right people. When he say the politicians, you know, your state legislative offices, your local mayor offices and stuff, we're at the table with those individuals, and we can take those talking points to them. So let's just continue to build off it. Again, Ms. Savitra, as I conclude all of these with you, man, I get more and more excited with the individuals that you bring on, man. So it's a great thing. There's a lot of great things in store across the country, but there's a lot of it's being funneled to Louisiana. So we ready.
Yes, we are. And I'll leave on this because Dr. Davis mentioned the idea of like local politicians, and then of course they want to go higher. As you know, the right hand to President Biden is our former Congressman Cedric Richmond, who is now ascended to be a senior advisor as well as lead the Department of Public Outreach. So it just tells you going to those little picnics and those community outreach events, sometimes they pay off later down the road too in bigger ways and not just locally. So there you go. There you have it. And so just know there's somebody in the White House that has the ear of the president that's definitely trying to fight for Louisiana businesses. Well, it is 7 o'clock, and you guys know I definitely like to end on time. Kenyatta always gives me my props for doing that. Yes. And so thank you all for joining us tonight. We had so many people register, so I know a lot of people will be watching this as a playback as well. Until next time, I hope you have a great night, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Savitra, Kenyatta. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I'll be getting in contact.
Absolutely. We'll be in touch.
Y'all be safe. Have a good one.
Take care.